I've opened Embrilliance Essentials, which is my chosen program to use for my machine embroidery, but you can use any that suits you. Or you don't even have to open this design in any kind of software at all. You can literally download it to your computer once you've purchased it, and you can put it on a USB stick and put that in your embroidery machine, or if you have any other way of transferring it, do it that way. But I just want to show you what I've done initially. So I've opened Embrilliance Essentials. I've got the file already saved on my desktop, and the file I've actually changed a couple of the colours just to suit my project. So I'm literally going to left click on the embroidery file that's on my desktop, and I'm just going to drag it in and drop it onto my hoop here. Now, by default in Embrilliance Essentials, I have my larger hoop set as the default hoop, which is the 8x12. This actual design comes in, I think, three different sizes, maybe, I can't remember. But this is the smallest design, and it says it's a 3x3 design, which I think it means it's for a 3x3 hoop, because when I actually select the design and look down here at the bottom, the actual size of the stitch out is 2 7/8 by 2 7/16. Now, I'm just going to zoom in. So the 3 elements here that you can see on the screen that look grey, I've assigned as white because that's how I want to stitch them out on my machine. Now, I literally could have left them at the original colours, which I think were 2 shades of green from memory, and I could have just put white in my sewing machine. But there are several different colours involved in this design, and just so I don't get confused, I decided I'd actually change them here in Embrilliance. And the way I did that was, once I had the design on my screen hoop, I came over to the right hand side, and in the properties window, it may look like this. You may just see the name with an arrow if you use a Mac. It may be a plus if you use Windows. But whichever way, if you click on that, it expands the design. And when I click on the first step, it highlights that element. So if I come down here and go to colour, you'll see now that it says polar white. This originally was green. So the way that I changed the colour was, I just literally, once I was in colour, I clicked on the colour swatch. That brings this box up, and then I was able to search for white and click go. And when white came up here, I selected it, clicked OK, and that changed that colour. I have got other videos in my Embrilliance Essentials playlist here on YouTube that you can go and have a look. I think I go into more detail in a previous video. So once I was happy with what I wanted, I then came up to the very top of the screen to where it says File, and I came down to where it says Save Stitch File As. That then opens a dialog box. I've automatically got my Embrilliance Essentials set to save files by default as PES because I use a Brother machine. And again, there's videos in the Embrilliance Essentials playlist here on my channel explaining how to do that. So automatically PES comes up here, and then the save option for me, which I think will probably be the same for you if you use Embrilliance, comes up with mydesign.pes. So in here I highlighted this, I gave it a name, I chose to save it on my desktop, and I hit save. I'm not going to save it again because I've already got it saved, because that's the one I've got open here. So now I'm going to close Essentials. I don't need to save anything here because I've not actually done anything. And here is the file. So I'm going to get a USB stick now that I use for embroidery, and I'm going to put this design onto the USB stick, and then take you over to my other desk and show you what I'm going to do. One thing I forgot to say, I'll just open this file again in Embrilliance. Once I'd got everything as I wanted it to be here colour-wise, I came up to the top of the page and I went to print, and I printed out this design. And when you print from Embrilliance, it prints at the exact size that the design is going to stitch out. So I've pre-printed my design, which again, I'll show you in a few minutes. So now I've inserted my USB stick into the back of my machine, and here it is. This is my USB stick. It shows up on my desktop, and again, I've named it. And again, there's a previous video showing how to do this on my YouTube channel. So I'm just going to double click now, double left click to open this USB stick. I've not got many designs on here, just some that I've used in previous videos. And I'm literally going to left click on this design and drag it and drop it onto this USB stick. And once I know it's here, and here it is, I can close this. And then what I have to do is right click on my USB stick and click eject. If you don't eject a USB stick properly and then take it out of your computer, you run the risk of damaging any files that you have on there, and then they could be rendered useless, and you won't be able to use them. So the USB stick has disappeared off my desktop now, so now I know it's safe to take it out of the back of my machine. So now I'm just going to go over to my other camera and show you what I'm going to do next. Okay, so this is an oldish t-shirt that I'm just trying this design on because I'm not sure how it's going to stitch out. I've not stitched it before. So I've got a plain black t-shirt. I folded it in half to get a centre line. Now you're probably not going to be able to see it, but there's a very faint centre line just running down here. This is the design from Embrilliance Essentials that I printed out, and you can see here the design is in green, and that was before I changed the colours to white, which is what I'm going to stitch those elements out in. So I printed this out from my computer onto A4, and then I cut as close as I can to the crosshairs that the Embrilliance Essentials puts in for you when you print your design out. So I've literally lined up this centre line with the fold line that I put in this t-shirt, and I've just pinned it through the top layer, and that's roughly where the design is going to stitch. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hoop some cutaway stabiliser, because apparently that is what is recommended for clothing. I think there's a saying, if you wear it, don't tear it. So don't use tearaway stabiliser if you're doing anything that's going to be worn. So I need cutaway stabiliser. So I'm going to use, for this design, I'm going to use cutaway stabiliser in my hoop, and I think I'm just going to float this design in the hoop. I'm not sure yet until I get to my machine. And I'm going to use a water-soluble stabiliser on top, which you'll see when I get over to my sewing machine. Okay, so I've got a 70 gram cutaway stabiliser. Not sure if that's relevant or not, to be honest. It's just I bought a pack of various types of stabiliser from the internet, and on this particular tearaway, that's what it said it was, 70 grams. Sorry, cutaway, that's what it said it was. So that's my stabiliser hooped. And this, I'm not sure how well you'll see it, is my water-soluble topper that I'm going to use. It looks like shrink wrap, but it's not, or cling film if you're in the UK. So again, this, I've had this years. This was bought off the internet, no idea where I got it, but if you search for embroidery water soluble stabilizer, you're bound to find something on the net, you know, Amazon, eBay, anywhere. So this t-shirt is going to get floated on top of this frame. So I'm going to turn my t-shirt inside out, and I want to try as best I can line up the center crosshair with the center of my hoop. So the way that I'm going to do that is to use the grid that came with this hoop. So I'm just going to grab a pen. It doesn't matter, any pen will do for this, because this is, you know, obviously you're just drawing this on the stabilizer. It's not going to be seen. So I've got the center marks. Now, again, if I want to highlight them a bit more, I can, you know, draw them in with a ruler. Use this and see how I get on here. So just to, you know, kind of highlight the lines a bit more. You don't have to do this. It's, you know, it's entirely up to you. So I just basically now need to put this hoop in my embroidery machine, and then I'm going to fold on the fold line of my crosshair, and I'm going to line the middle of that up with the middle here, like so, and try and keep the rest of the t-shirt out of the way, and then I might just pin it in a couple of places. Basically, I've got the t-shirt inside out, I've got the design pinned on the t-shirt where I'm going to put it, and then I just want to position this, the center mark. And if you're unsure, okay, just realized the screen was a bit bright there, so I'm not sure whether you saw that. So basically, here's my design pinned to my t-shirt. I've got my center crosshairs. I've folded this in half so I know where the center line is horizontally. I can put a pin straight through the middle, and I can put that pin over the center mark on my frame, and I know that that's going to be lined up. And then what I can do, I can put a pin out of the way straight through the t-shirt and the backing. The needle should go nowhere near that. And then what I can also do is put another one down here, but I'm going to wait until I get it on the machine and just, you know, fiddle with it then, so that hopefully I can get it in the right place. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to put the hoop into the machine. And lock it in place. I'm going to put my USB stick into my sewing machine. I'm going to go to embroidery, to the USB stick, and look for my design. So the first colour that I need to stitch is the white. So I've already put my bobbin thread in the sewing machine, and then I've got lots of different colours of thread on my table that I'm going to be using to stitch out this design. So the first one that I need to load up is the white. I've got my white bobbin thread in the bottom of my machine. I've got my white thread, embroidery thread, in the top of my machine. I've got my machine threaded up, and I've got my design. Now obviously I'm trying to keep everything out of the way. I'm trying to keep this all level and straight, and when the design comes in to your sewing machine, it comes in the centre of the hoop. But I can see that if I turn the needle, that's not going to be in the exact centre of the crosshair on my t-shirt. So I'm going to go into embroidery on my machine, and then I have these directional arrows here, and I can see that the needle needs to come over to the right and a little bit down. So I'm going to just hit this arrow a few times and it will move the needle, and now I'm going to take it down, and then I'm just going to turn the wheel on the machine and see if the needle still needs to come over a little bit to the right and down a little. So now that needle is going to fall more or less perfectly in the centre of that crosshair. So that means that the design now is set to the t-shirt rather than being set to the middle of the hoop. So I can now, I'm going to unpin the design now all together. I've got one pin holding the t-shirt to the hoop. You know, if you want to put more, you can add more. Now, one last thing I'm going to do, I know it should work because I've used the printout, but if you want to be, you know, doubly safe, on my machine I have this button here, and if I press it, it will trace out where the design is going to stitch. Now it's just, my machine's telling me that it won't do it unless the needle's in its highest position, so I'm just winding the needle up. I can trace out the design. So it's going to come there. I need to watch this. So I've got enough room, but I just need to be mindful that I need to keep the t-shirt out of the way while it's stitching. So just put a couple of little wonder clips just to hold the t-shirt neck out of the way. So I think I'm ready to start stitching the first element of the design, but what I need to do is put my water soluble topper on top, and that just helps the stitches not get lost in the t-shirt. Sorry if my arms and things are getting in the way, but it's not easy to film this and do it at the same time. So I'm going to put the presser foot down, going to start the machine, and try and keep my fingers out of the way, but try and keep the t-shirt out of the way at the same time. And if I'm in any doubt whatsoever, I'm just going to hit the stop button on my sewing machine. Okay, so I just want to say here that this seems to be, you know, holding in place okay. Obviously, I'm new to this, so you're learning with me. I could have sprayed the tearaway stabilizer with something like a 505 spray and then put the t-shirt on top, and that would probably hold it in place. But because this is a piece of clothing that, you know, even though it's an old t-shirt I may just wear around the house, I didn't particularly want to use spray adhesive. But if you're worried about having pins in your garments through your hoops, or you don't think that pins are going to hold it in place enough, then just use a little bit of 505 repositionable spray and put your fabric on top. Or another thing you can do, I think you can get cutaway sticky stabilizer, so you could hoop your you could put sticky stabilizer in your hoop, which is sticky on the top, and then your garment sticks to that, and then you probably wouldn't need pins at all. So that's just my initial thoughts, but at the moment it seems to be you know, holding in place okay. It's not a very big design, and I'll just keep going and see how I get on with it. So it's stopped now, and one thing I love about this Brother V5 LE machine, it cuts all the jump stitches for you, so I don't, you know, need to go in and be cutting threads or stitches or stopping the machine once it's started doing a few stitches to get the tails cut. It deals with all that for you. So now it's stopped so that I can do the next colour change. So I'm just going to clip the thread at the top of the machine, pull the thread out through the bottom. I'm going to take out the white thread and put in my next colour, which I think is my pale pink. And these modern machines are ever so easy to change your threads now. Okay, so it's going on to the next colour. So some of these flowers now are going to extend just beyond this design. So this is where I just want to, you know, I need to pay extra attention and make sure I've got no folds or creases in my t-shirts. So I'm going to put the foot down and press start and see where it's going to go for the next part of the design, which is 3 pink flowers. Okay, so one other thing that I could have done, which I forgot to do, but I have shown how to do in a previous video, is before I started, I could have applied a basting box around the design, and that would have held the t-shirt in the hoop better as well. But as I say, it seems to be holding up okay. But again, if you go to Embrilliance Essentials playlist here on my YouTube channel, there is a video showing how to add a basting box. So now it's telling me to change the thread again. So I'm just going to do the same. I'm going to clip the thread at the top, pull it out through the bottom, take this pale pink out because I think it's actually finished with now. And then I need my next colour, which I'm using a dark pink. Now I think that this design, you know, could look equally as nice just stitched all in one colour. Okay, so that's it finished. I'm going to take it out of the machine, bring you over to my other desk and show you how it's looking. Okay, so I'm going to unhoop it. Take the pin out. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut away this stabiliser. So I'm putting my fingers behind the design so that I hopefully don't cut through the t-shirt. And I have not done anything to the size of this design at all. This is the smallest design that is in file. Obviously you can put some kind of, I can't remember what it's called, like soft and stable is it called, on the back of this. You can iron over to, you know, cover up all these stitches. It's quite a dense design. And then I'm going to pull away the water soluble stabiliser. I'm just going to get my seam ripper and just try and get into the plastic here so that I can start to pull all these inner bits away from the design. You can obviously spray it with water, wet it with a cloth, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to try and get as much of it out as possible for now. And then any of the smaller bits that I can't get in the middle of the flowers, I will just spray some water on it. So I'll tidy it up and I'll come back when I've done it. Okay, so here it is finished. It's still wet because I blasted it with water to try and get all the water soluble topper away. So the colours may not look as bright. Here's the pattern that I printed from Embrilliance, and you can see it's the exact same size. So, you know, once you've printed your patterns, keep them, and then obviously you can use them again. I think this would look great if you stitch it in one of the bigger sizes and put it obviously on maybe a child's t-shirt or, you know, clothing or something. But for me, as I say, I don't wear embellished clothing, and this is just an old t-shirt which I thought I'd try it on, but you know, I'll wear this round the house. I don't know whether I'd go out wearing it or not. Maybe, I'll see, but I'll try and get a better photograph of it for the thumbnail once it's dry. So, you know, a few things just to point out. You could use a sticky stabilizer and help keep your fabric item in place. This one stayed in place as it was, just with, you know, the pin that I had in. You could also add a basting box around the design before you start stitching it. I think all of the Brother machines have the facility to add a basting box. That would, you know, hold it in place if you're worried. Obviously I stitched this on a flatbed machine, so you do need to watch them. If you've got, you know, something with a free arm machine, then you can just put this on and you could walk away. But on a flatbed machine, you do have to, you know, more or less sit over it and watch it, just to make sure that none of your clothing gets caught up in a needle where it's not meant to be. But I think for the first time actually stitching out on a piece of clothing, I love the design and I actually love how it's turned out. So, you know, you never know, I may or may not wear it to do the supermarket run, or I may just wear it in the house, I'm not sure. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed, you know, walking along and learning with me how to stitch a design like this onto clothing. Anyway, please give the video a thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.